Uncommon Line podcast. We are back down at Texas Gun Experience in a different room today.
Yeah.
This is episode 34 of the Uncommon Line, and we've got our guests standing by kind of like usual. Operation Enduring Warrior will bring you on here shortly. We've got to do our intros and pay our respects and everything. So back down here, we're actually in the VIP room today, so if everybody notices, it's a little bit different, which we'll be able to talk what we just did a second ago, which was awesome.
That was awesome.
Very jealous.
I know.
So we're down in the VIP room. Don't forget, guys, check out Texas Gun Experience. They're in Grapevine, Texas. You can come here and shoot whatever you want, literally from a Gatling gun to a minigun to whatever. So make sure you check them out. Today's episode, just before, because I want to get to our guests, today's episode is brought to you by a couple of our sponsors. RX Plus Plates, got to go check them out. All our people involved in the tactical games and our police officers out there. And I guess some firefighters that are doing it. But anyways, make sure you go check out RX Plus Plates. Stop running your ceramic plates in your vest that you use on duty. Stop. Go check out RX Plus Plates. They're custom made. You can get your logos put on them. They're outfitting now the tactical games, a lot of the athletes out there that are sponsored. So you got to go check them out. Cool thing is you can use code THEUCL for a discount at checkout. So we both run them. Ours are in storage right now.
Yeah,
but
mine are filmed in my garage.
Yeah, so, this is what I get for living with the in-laws right now. Everything's in storage while we're building. But, hey, RX Plus Plates, you need to go check them out. It's a great product to use for working out, fitness, everything. It checks all the boxes, and you don't have to use your ceramic plate and damage them that you're going to wear on duty, which I still don't understand why people do that.
Oh, well, I don't know if people are still running ceramic.
Well, whatever. I mean, any body armor that you're using on duty, don't use it to work out. Just get the plates that weigh the same.
Yeah.
That way you can just beat the hell out of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then secondly, our second sponsor of the show is Soldier Socks. Soldier Socks is an amazing company that does a lot for our men and women serving in the armed forces. We've talked about them before. We've had them on the show. You'll know what they're about. Some awesome people to deal with, what they're doing for the community, not just military, but now law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
All the nonprofits they're involved in is absolutely incredible. And as I say that, we kind of had a little bit of a surprise for you. So let me check. You roll them up. Mike Ellie, are you there? Can you hear us?
Check.
Let me check them. Where are they at? Are you all the way up? Is the top right knob up? Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Mike. Well, there's
Hey,
something.
Ellie, you there? I think they got us on hold. We're trying to talk to you.
You have reached the maximum time permitted for recording your message.
Let's try it. I was on their voicemail the whole time, so you just literally had our whole intro. Let's try them again. Here they go.
There it is. Now it's ringing.
Hello.
Hey, Ellie, you
Ellie.
there?
Hey, yes, we are here.
Hey, sorry. So what happened? The alarm was going off. And then, by the way, you're going to have a long voicemail with us just talking in the background. So, guys, like I said, we like it completely organic. So we have Operation Enduring Warrior here. We just talked about y'all being a sponsor of the show, but we kind of wanted to give you a chance to talk to them real quick, and then we're going to continue interviewing them. So what do you got for them?
Yes. Hello. How are you guys?
We're doing great. How are you?
Awesome. We're doing very well. Thank you. So we wanted to join this call just to let you guys know that if you are up for it, we would love to have you be a part of our Stand for a Cause line, which basically means we would create a sock designed just for your nonprofit in mind. We would work with you to come up with a specific design. And then every time we sell those socks, a donation will go back to Operation Enduring Warrior.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That is really cool.
Wow, so generous. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, of course. We absolutely love the mission of what you guys do. It's amazing. And so we really want to create something special for you guys and work hand in hand so we can come up with the perfect design for you guys and what will work for your mission too.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's another opportunity for me to promote the organization by wearing crazy socks with our logo.
Well, yeah, guys, I kind of reached out to him immediately when we first started talking to Jeremy after the tactical games and kind of talking to them. I was like, this is something that I think, like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, both organizations just make sense. And, you know, it's awesome that y'all get to do this. So we're going to put y'all two in contact, Ellie. I'll make sure they get your contact information so y'all can work between each other and get it going. So
That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for facilitating this, for connecting us. And Brad's the one who actually brought your organization to our attention. So we're really, really pumped to work with you guys and help spread your mission too.
It's nothing about me.
It's awesome.
We're excited. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Where's the husband at?
He's here. He's just listening.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hey there, Mike.
He was rocking it, so I just hung out.
All right, guys. We'll let y'all get back. I know y'all are on the road handling some business there, so we'll make sure we get them in contact with y'all. And thank y'all so much again.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great rest of your podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll talk to y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So, no, it's one of those things like, look, I just talked about everything we're trying to do, and one of our things with the podcast is like, how can we give back? Look, we're not rich. We're cops, right?
Right.
So we all know that, right? Because if not, like one of the first things, I was so moved. Let's do this. So that was the intro to the show. Those are our sponsors. Go check them out. But now we're going to bring on Operation Enduring Warrior. Go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick.
I am Troy Warshel. I'm the president of Operation Enduring Warrior.
My name is Jeremy Scharlow. I am a program manager with Warrior's Voice for Operation Enduring Warrior, and I'm also an honoree.
Cool. So, and we'll get to that. And guys, y'all can go back to our Tactical Games Championship episode. You can see where we met Jeremy and sat down with Juan. Sat down with Juan. Wow. I hope that wasn't offensive. Juan, I apologize. Juan or Jose, one of those. We sat down with them and kind of, got a little bit of their stories. But so I just was moved the first time I saw it. I kept wondering. I was like, who are these guys? First off, who are these nut jobs running around in backpacks and gas masks that I don't know who they are? And then I see the Wounded Warriors, and I was like, okay, there's something a little bit more there. And we had the chance to sit down and talk, and I was just completely blown away. So they were one of the first people I thought of. I was like, okay, I'm not rich, so how can we find a way to give back? Let's reach out to Soldier Socks and have them create a sock to where, see if they'd be interested in creating a sock to where, portions of the donations go to the y'all's cause. So
that'll be great. And I see a really big market for that too, especially with our OCAs. We're all out doing Spartans all the time, and people like to wear the crazy socks, and this is just a great opportunity for that as well.
Yeah, and we so when we first started talking, I remember I was on surveillance, after hours on surveillance, whatever you want to say, not parked in the parking lot, and I just called her because I was thinking of it, and I was like, okay. And they started asking, like, what do you want to design? I was like, no, I don't want to design anything. Like, let y'all just figure out how crazy you want to make it with your logo so y'all have full control and stuff working with them. So we'll make sure we get you in contact with them. Jess, remind me, got to get them contact information before we leave. So so y'all flew into town yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And y'all travel a lot, I take it, right?
This is my fourth weekend in a row. I haven't been home in 4 weekends. So, yeah, we're always out doing something.
Yeah, I think last weekend was my first weekend off in like a month and a half or so.
So I know we kind of talked about it in the episode with the tactical games, but give us a little bit of history on how Operation Enduring Warrior started, so then we can go into like what it's about and go further into it.
Sure. So Operation Enduring Warrior started in 2013. It was the core group of folks that got together, and this is obviously height of Iraq, Afghanistan, and a lot of folks coming back with wounds and injuries, and this was a group of patriots that wanted to give back to that community, and so they came together and came up with the idea of, we want to get people out, we want to get them moving again, to try and show them that even if you're injured, you can still do the things you wanted or you used to do. You can still be that badass that you used to be. You just got to do it in a different way, and this gave people an opportunity to get out and really push themselves and try to do things to live a more normal life. And that's how it all started. It was a group of 6 folks that got together and really kicked this thing off. And now here we are 8 years later. The organization has grown just in leaps and bounds, and the number of people that we're able to help has been tremendous. We brought in law enforcement because we saw that law enforcement was a community that was dealing with the same things that wounded veterans were dealing with, but didn't have the resources that we had. So That was a logical jump for us to be able to pull law enforcement in, and now we're doing the same thing for the fire service because we see that again, they get injured, they get something happens to them, and then they're no longer of use to their department, so they're kind of just cut loose, and now they've lost their unit, they've lost their identity. The thing that they've been working with all their life is now not there. So how do we help that core group of people that are really suffering and facing those challenges? And that's sort of how we've got from the beginning to where we are today. I think we've from that original core of 6 people, we've grown to like 22 massed athletes that are full-time active folks that are working with us. We probably have 150 very dedicated, almost full-time volunteers that help outside of that. And then, tangentially, as far as folks that follow us and support us through social media, almost 1,500 people that sort of help get the message out.
That's awesome. First off, what was that word you just said? So he was a fighter pilot, so they're very smart. He was a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. That's what stood out to me. That's pretty ridiculous. I just was like, what was that word?
Well, dude, I'm a below average dude having an average day and an above average time. So
I like that. Yeah,
There you go,
that's
dude.
good. So have you been involved? Were you one of the first 6?
No, I started as a volunteer in 2016, and then became a mass athlete member in 2017. So I've only been around for about 4 years.
Okay.
Can't believe it's I've been around for half the life of the organization. It doesn't seem like it just gone by in a blink.
And so then you took over as president when?
That was what month is it? May now. So I took over as president in August last year.
Okay.
You can imagine with COVID and everything going on, and it was a lot of things that led up to that. We had, with COVID started. All right, let me back up a little more. February of last year, I was the VP of Finance of the organization. The president at our annual board meeting tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Hey, I need a number 2 to help run the organization. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you're the guy." So, okay,
Sure.
I mean, complete surprise. Get tapped on the shoulder because there are so many just amazing and well qualified people. I'm humbled to get that honor, and our president at the time, Eric Schmitz, he and I worked very closely together for a number of months. Really trying to figure out how we're going to navigate COVID and what does that mean for an organization that's used to being together on a race course or out, and very social, and there's always a lot of physical contact. It's just that's how we are, and how do you deal with that in COVID? Trying to deal with keeping the group together because we've got honorees that we're trying to make sure that we're meeting their needs. We're still getting them out. We're getting them moving.
Because quite frankly, their life depends on it.
Right, it does. I mean, it's
Literally.
Yeah.
You take people that are used to human contact and put them in a hole, and with no contact, the demons start to come back with a vengeance. And how do you reach those people? And we really had to come up with a different way of doing things. So fortunately, we were able to really energize the network, and we got out. We were calling people and trying to figure out how to make Teams calls work, to get 50 people or 100 people on and virtual happy hours and things like that. So fast forward a couple of months, and Eric Schmitz, our president, had passed away very suddenly, and that was in June. And I'm like, oh shit, it's me now. I got to step up and try and keep this thing on the rails while we're dealing with COVID. Now the loss of an awesome man who, I would say he's one of the stalwarts of the organization. I mean, his leadership and his drive really got us to where we are. And, those are big shoes to step into, even if only temporarily, until the board figures out who they want to be the next president. And fortunately, I had a great team around me. My wife is a great sounding board. The other officers that were involved in the organization are fantastic people who were there to help and advise and help me talk through and deal with all those challenges. So we came together. We had our first event last year in July. It was called Warex in Ohio. great bunch of guys who
I've heard about this.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, WarX guys are so much fun. They have a military-themed obstacle course. So, you start the obstacle course race to guns going off, tannerite exploding. It is an absolute blast.
And that's after they give you the mission brief where you've been captured and your goal is to escape the compound. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And that was our first opportunity to get back together as a group, and we tried to pull as many people as we could. Obviously being cognizant of COVID and all the business we had to do there, but it was really what the organization needed to start healing. So we had, I think we had about 80 folks there total, and just the opportunity to get together and mourn the loss of Eric and have that that discussion and that time and with that, I told everybody in the organization, I'll do the best I can to keep this thing on the rails until the board of directors finds out who the next president's going to be. I don't presume it's going to be me. If they want me to stay on, I'd be honored to do it. But if they find somebody else, I'm happy to serve however I can. And a month later, the vote came back. They said, "All right, you're the dude." Crap, I'm the dude. But I'll tell you what, it's really a labor of love. I tease all the time that I have 2 full-time jobs, but this is the one that I really love.
So do you work on another job too?
Yeah, I actually
because everybody does, right? Like most everybody has, full-time jobs. I know, like Nicole, and everybody seems to have full-time jobs, and then this, and I'm like, I don't see how y'all have time. I thought I was busy. Y'all are on the road a lot more. So what is it you do, if you don't mind?
So I work for the Air Force as a government civilian, and I just transferred there in July.
How long did you fly?
I flew for 20 years.
Wow. Did you just retire then?
No, I retired in 2011.
Okay.
And then I had to grow up and get a real job. So, can't. And my wife had to tease me. I'd come back from work. I'm like, oh, this job sucks. She's like, you need to reset your idea of job satisfaction. Lion's like a 15. Let's ratchet it back there, big boy. So
so how do you? That's a good point. Like, how the hell do you go from like just dropping bombs, going fast to just what? So I take it is it a desk job? I know you made for OPSEC reason, but is it a desk job?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Desk job. It was. Well, it was kind of funny as I was retiring. All my buddies were like, "Oh, here you go. One day you're hurling yourself into the ground, releasing the high explosive ordnance. The next day, your biggest threats are paper cuts and eye strain."
So how come you didn't want to fly afterwards?
It was kind of one of those things. It was, that kind of tactical flying, and then going to go fly for an airline. Take off, turn the autopilot on, land, stay in a hotel, and then why do I want to be, I wouldn't have married the young lady if I didn't want to spend any time with her. So why would I want to, spend at least half my life away from her? So I thought, I'll take another job that's, more stable where I'm home on a more regular basis. And then, then this comes around. And
I was going to say, so.
How's that working out for you? But.
Well, it seems like, it seemed from the outside looking in, it seems like y'all are doing, y'all are moving and grooving. So that's a good testament to that. Jeremy, I know we kind of talked, in Florida about how you got involved, and give everybody a little, you were an honoree first.
Yes,
before
sir.
You kind of took on, and don't call me sir, bro. Like, I'm younger than everybody right here, right now. So.
Oh, sure. Throw the old card out. I see how you're going to be.
So you started off as an honoree, involved in the organization.
Correct.
And was he were you one of the first police officers involved?
Yes, I was, I believe, the second police officer involved. The first being a gentleman by the name of Stephen Bones, and he was a detective in New York. And as the buildings were coming down on 9/11, he ran in, and he was the first honoree they brought in. And I've had the opportunity to meet Bones on a couple different. We'd call him Bones, but yeah. His heart is about 4 sizes bigger than he is, and when you look at the guy, when you look at him, he has a beard down to his stomach, and he has some injuries that are evident where he has to wear an eye patch and whatnot. And you'd look at the man, and so many people would scoff at him, but then his heart is just so big, and that's what I found about almost everybody within this organization. You know, I was brought into the organization after my on-duty injury. I was ambushed on a traffic stop. I fought off my attacker. He pulled a pistol and shot me. I was able to return fire, and I landed 2 rounds after I was injured. And he retrieved an AK-47, continued his onslaught, was able to escape. We weren't able to set up a perimeter fast enough. I worked at a rural department, so we had 3 people on duty at that time. And what kind of perimeter are you setting up with 3 people? I mean,
yeah, I'm not trying to laugh at the situation, but
dude,
that's I mean, that's just, those are different cops, man. Like cops that, I mean, troopers, we give them crap all the time. Troopers and guys that are rural agencies that are dealing in the world we're in right now, where backups 45 minutes or an hour away is just a different ball game.
Well, and after I was hit, I retreated to cover. I saw him go down after I'd struck him. I took a knee and I was reloading, and I was in the middle of a road. I had no cover, no concealment, nothing. And I'm watching him get up as I'm reloading, and I go running towards my squad car after he runs into the house. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I got to get to my AR just because, the pistol didn't work. Let's upgrade here. Yeah. I didn't get to my squad car because as I was running there, all I could think of is that thing's a bullet magnet. If he comes back, I don't want to be there. And so I took cover behind a nearby building, and I pied the corner just so I could get eyes on. I went over the radio, and it's clear as day. You hear me over the radio, 6 George 2-2, shots fired, I'm hit. I said it almost exactly like that. Like, I had to say it 2 times before anybody even realized it was real. And then he comes out the house, and he's holding that AK-47, and I have a Glock 23 in my hand, and I'm bleeding, like, profusely. My gun's covered. I know I only got 2 mags left on me. My AR's in the trunk of the car, which is a great place for it. My tourniquet, which if y'all don't carry a tourniquet, carry a tourniquet. And that does not belong in your squad car. You need 2 on you, and they have to be reachable at all times. So if you don't do that, do that. But I didn't have my tourniquet on me, so I couldn't stop the bleeding right away. And he comes out with that AK. I look at my Glock. I'm like, nope. I duck back behind cover, and then he just unloads with that AK. And I didn't know what he was shooting at, but I wasn't going to stick my head out to find out either. Turns out he ended up shooting my squad car, emptied a mag into my squad car with the 7.62 rounds, then got back into his vehicle, rammed my squad car, and escaped that way. My local SWAT team was actually the team I was on, was activated to kind of go find him, but at the time, my team didn't have the correct equipment. They didn't have, happened at 10:50 at night, and they didn't have the equipment for night vision and to do that kind of ops. And they ended up finding him in a field, but via an aircraft. But then he started shooting at the aircraft, so the aircraft had to get out of there. And he ended up escaping there and went down to Southern Illinois. About a week and a half later, the FBI found him. He actually was trying to. They found him because he was trying to get his wounds fixed. He broke into a church, and he used their first aid kit to try to treat his wounds. And the preacher at the church found all of the bandages in the garbage. And so he called the cops, and then they found him in an abandoned building on the property. But he decided he didn't want to go quietly, and a shootout ensued, and he lost his life. So.
Did he take his own, or did he lose his life?
He ended up shooting one of the FBI agents. He got one of the FBI agents in that shootout, and then
did he kill him?
There were too many rounds. In the autopsy, they couldn't count the rounds.
No. Did he kill the FBI agent?
No. The FBI. He got him with the AK. Last I knew, the FBI agent was air flew out, and I think I don't know where, but he recovered from what I know. I've tried to reach out a couple times, but I don't know why they're so secretive, but they're
it's the FBI.
Yeah, I don't know the gentleman's name.
I'm still wondering why they got the fugitive case and the Marshals Task Force didn't. But
yeah,
that's crazy, man. Well, at least the fucker's dead. So I mean, you can't put your big boy pants on. You think you're gonna win that battle? You ain't. I mean, at the end of the day, you ain't.
Well, so many people have said that since thank God he's dead and everything. And I really don't thank God he's dead.
Oh God, dude.
I want to know. I'd like about 10 minutes in a room with them to have a little discussion. What happened? Why? What did I do to you that caused this?
Was he on the run or anything? I mean, what?
Not before that. He's one of those sovereign citizen types,
okay.
and I'd arrested him one time before. He was known to our department. I'd arrested him one time before because we'd gotten a disorderly conduct call at a local gas station, in which a white male was screaming epithets at a black male, including any pejorative you can imagine. And so we get called. I start to investigate that. He'd already left. I got the information, from license plates and whatnot. Found him. Went to his house to discuss it with him, and he right away, as soon as he saw me, balled up his fists and came at me like he wanted to fight that time too. And I drew the taser down on him, and he stopped that time. We were able to take him into custody without issue. But even on the way to the jail, he was screaming at me in German. And then he told me it was my fault that these quote-unquote animals were running the streets, and I was just locking up white men. And it's just, and then the very next contact I have with him, he shoots me. So
shouldn't have arrested him.
I guess.
Dude, that's crazy, man. Where was this at?
Muhammad, Illinois, Central Illinois.
It's
just outside of Champaign.
How many people are in the population there?
So the population at the time was about 10,000. We had 7 sworn officers.
For 10,000
For
people.
10,000, we had 7 sworn. It was considered kind of like a suburb of Champaign-Urbana. All the rich people lived there they didn't want to live in Champaign where the drama was. So it was kind of one of those sleepy towns that they didn't expect anything was ever going to happen in. The cops were there because you had to have cops, but we didn't ever do anything. There's no danger in Muhammad, that kind of thing.
So you're how many years on the job then?
I had 9 years on it at that time.
So
9 years with that department and a year and a half with another department.
So you're not retired on duty yet. You're
No,
not 18
no.
years. You're still loving the job, still loving life, and it's taken from you.
Yeah.
So your injuries were obviously substantial. First off, I got to say, just badass job, right? I mean, just fuck yeah, that takes a lot, right, to stay in the fight. Being shot, I don't care what anybody says, like that, just right there, that's just incredible.
Well, you see sometimes people after they're shot, they're, I didn't know I was shot. Yeah, I didn't know until after. I knew right away.
Yeah,
like
that's what everybody I've talked to that's been shot. They were like, no,
No,
I knew. I knew.
Yeah, it felt like somebody had hit me with a sledgehammer, and it was hot, and then just numb.
Yeah,
there was no mistaking it. There's nothing I ever felt before, and there was nothing else it could have been. So
we had another officer on that was shot 9 times, and his story, he was one of the first things he was like, I knew I'd been hit by the other ones, but then the guy had, he was shot in both hands. He couldn't use his hands, so the guy had taken his gun, and he was like, those hurt. I felt getting shot by his gun, but you know what really hurt was when I was shot in the ass with the hollow point rounds from my gun. He immediately knew that this is bad. This really, really hurts because it's just a different round. It's just not a hollow core. I mean, it's solid core. So going back to that, you're essentially, when we've talked about this on the show, like you're robbed of your identity at that point. For so many of us, this job is not just a job. Are you wearing a scrunchie on your right hand?
Yeah, it's my daughter's, man.
I just saw that. Anyways,
squirrel, dude.
Squirrel. So many of us, this is our calling, right? And this is not just a job. This is our true calling. And I assume getting to know you a little bit, that was for you how it was. You go to a dark place, I take it.
Oh yeah, very dark place. So it didn't happen right away. For the first, I'd say week, not even week, a couple days, I was on cloud 9, man. I thought I was indestructible. Like I was happy. I slept better that night, or not the first night, but the second night. I slept better than I'd ever slept in my life. It was amazing. But then after that is when it started to get a little hairy. People stopped coming by, which was actually a good thing because for the first week, he was still on the run and whatever. My police department, after they took my weapon and whatnot, they didn't replace it. So I had a friend bring me another weapon because they'd taken mine.
Bro, if that ever happens again and you lose it, just call us. We'll get you. We'll send the Gatling gun with you.
That Gatling gun's amazing. But yeah. But so the nightmares and stuff started that first week, and my department had ordered me not to speak with anybody until I spoke with the investigators from the state police. And usually the international chiefs of police recommend that should occur within 24 to 48 hours after arrest, et cetera, et cetera. they waited about 7 days, 6-7 days before they interviewed me. And in that meantime, I'd reached out to my department at least one time saying, look, man, I need to talk to somebody about this. And they simply said, you can't. Wait till the investigation, then you can. Wait till you're interviewed, then you can speak. So I fast forward to going to the interview. You know, I go that whole week just kind of sucking it up, doing what I can. That's when I really started drinking alcohol to try to just calm, just, you know, make the pain go away. I was kind of a drinker anyway, you know, so it wasn't uncommon for me to drink, but I'm talking, I was getting into a fifth a bottle a night. I mean, that's quite a bit of liquor.
Yeah.
So then I go to the police department to do my interview, and the chief of police meets me there. And this all happened in the backyard of my police department. Like when I retreated to cover, it was 100 yards from my building that I worked in. So I have to go back to the scene of my shooting, essentially, to be interviewed. And the first thing my chief does is tell me that, you know, some of my rounds went into the house behind my target, and they went into the kitchen, and they hit like a pot that was sitting on their stove and whatnot. And all I could think to myself was, thank God nobody was there, because my rounds could have easily hurt somebody that it wasn't intended to. And then he takes me to show me my squad car, and there's multiple bullet holes through the squad car. It was obvious based on the trajectory of those rounds, he thought I was in the driver's seat, because the rounds go through the in-car computer, through the dashboard, through the seat. And that was kind of a pucker moment for me, a real oh shit moment.
See, that's what made you pucker?
Yeah, that's
Not the guy coming out with the AK-47. Yeah.
No, it was that moment where it was kind of like, oh my God, you know. And then it kind of spiraled down from there. Started getting a lot darker, and you know, I for a while I had people reaching out all the time. Hey, are you okay? And what do you say? Hey, are you okay? The answer is always yes. Yeah, I'm okay. None of us want to be like, no, I'm shitty.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I found is when you say that too many times, people believe you, and then they stop asking. And then you're left without anybody, and then you're feeling like you did it yourself, and it just all spirals down quickly from there.
So, yeah, man, I mean, it's just it's incredible, man. I mean, it's just look, I hope, no, I mean, I hope so. Just so everybody knows, we're starting a series with y'all, Operation Enduring Warrior. We're going to bring on warriors to be able to give them an outlet to tell their voice. You know, we're not the Joe Rogan show. We're not TV show. So we're a little bit smaller, so it's almost a good place that we feel that we can allow them to come start and tell their story, right? I don't ever want to have to sit here with a warrior. Like, I wish we were in a world where we didn't have to have these stories told, and we didn't have to have athletes, I mean, y'all are all athletes now, warriors struggling, right, and have to go through this, right? And that's just a shitty world, but it's reality, right? And as long as there's warriors in this world, we're going to be sitting with warriors telling their story. So first off, man, thank you for telling your story. And I think these stories need to be told more. I've had conversations with people like, you know, people don't necessarily want to hear our stories, and that's not true. Now more than ever, we need to hear these perspectives and everything. And so you get involved, or how do you get involved with Operation Enduring Warrior as an honoree then to be able to, or were you seeking to tell your story?
So things got dark really quick. When I say dark, I'm talking depression, anxiety, hypervigilance, to the point where if a car backfired while I was driving down the road 2 blocks away, I'm hitting the ground out of fear. You know, like, that was a gunshot. Now somebody's trying to kill me again. So I shrunk my world. I didn't leave the house except for going to the bar, you know, and I really didn't do much of anything. And one night I drank a lot, and the pain was just too much. I'm not talking just physical pain. The physical pain is actually the easy pain. I deal with pain in my arm all the time now, where the bullet went in my elbow and out my forearm. So I have constant pain right near the ulnar nerve that shoots all the way down into my pinky. But that's nothing compared to sitting there and really believing that you failed and that you're useless. And that led me to attempt to take my own life. You I was drunk. I had the gun in my mouth, telling myself all the reasons why I should. And next thing I know, I don't know why I didn't pull the trigger, but next thing I know, I wake up the next morning with the gun sitting next to me, round chambered, ready to go. And I realized, I almost made a permanent solution to a temporary problem, you know, so at that point I started to say, okay, I need help. Like, this is obviously, you know, I thought I was Billy Badass. I was SWAT for 9 years. I was a cop for 13. I'd never really failed anything. And here I am failing at living, you know? And so it took a real big gut check at that time and said, look, this isn't something I can do alone. So I started seeking out counseling, and that helped, you know, they put me on a bunch of different medications, and I'm usually not big on medications, but when you look at it as a crutch, when you break your leg, it's not like you just walk it off. They put it in a cast, you use crutches until you can get to a place where you can, you know, function normally without those things. And when I started looking at the medications and stuff they were putting me on in that framework, it made it easier to to digest, you know, okay, this isn't permanent. I can get myself back into a place where I no longer need these medications. And so that kind of became my goal. Well, then as I'm going through these processes, you know, I'm going to the doctor. Now the doctors are involved. I tried to keep workman's comp out of it, but that didn't work at all. I mean, the bills just got way too big, way too quick. And so I finally said, okay, I'll go to I'll turn it into workman's comp. So it became a workman's comp issue.
Wait, so you were holding off on turning it into workman's comp for them to pay for it?
Yeah, I was terrified that if I turned it into workman's comp, that it would be enough for them to send me to their doctors and they would pull my badge and take me out of the job. And so instead of going the path that I should have went to get the help I needed, I went to my own doctor. And my own doctor looked at me about like you did and said, "What are you doing, man? Like this isn't the way to do this. This isn't no. You need to see a psychiatrist. You need to see a psychologist, and you need to do it now." And so we set that up, and I was going there for a while, and I didn't really like what they had to say because everything the psychologists were saying, you know, they diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, clinical depression, like 4 other things. A bunch of other things, you know, just basically said I was what I say is batshit crazy, and I got 5 doctors that agreed with him. But that started the process towards me no longer being a police officer, and which is what I feared. You know, based on the psych evals that they were doing and what the doctors were saying, it was quite obvious that, you know, there would be quite a lot of liability to put a gun back on my side and send me back out onto the street. You know, I was jumpy, and you know, jumping and trigger finger aren't 2 things you need to go hand in hand. So after a year, May 5th, so this occurred May 7th, 2016. Yesterday was the anniversary, 5-year anniversary. But on May 5th, 2017, my chief approached me and said, "Hey, the year's been up. You can't return to work." And he handed me a termination letter. So they fired me just because I couldn't return. Then at less than a month after that, the workman's comp came in and said, "Oh, by the way," I'm sorry, I reversed that. Workman's comp first said, "By the way, we don't think this is this is a workman's comp issue. We think your trauma and your PTSD is from before you were a police officer," and so they stopped paying.
It's a great system,
right? And so then the year came up, and then the chief let me go because I couldn't return within a year. Well, now I have no income, and the doctor wouldn't sign the paperwork for my medical disability until he believed that I could no longer advance in my processes. And here we are. I've just gotten fired, and I'm going to him. I'm like, "Look, man, I have no income now. You've dragged your feet. I have no idea how long the pension processes and everything are going to take." And so I ended up going the entire year of the rest of 2017 and half of 2018. The lawyers told me I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get hired anywhere anyway because of the stuff that was going on. I had to take forwards against a future settlement for the injury in order to live. My house went into foreclosure. You know, I lost a couple relationships because of it. I went through a divorce, and then I lost another girlfriend from, you know, and it seemed like one thing after the other. And I'd finally just had enough, and I was like, I'm gonna talk about this because this is not how we treat our officers. And so I went on Facebook and I essentially started bitching, like whining and pissing and moaning about everything. That's the way I looked at it anyway. And a guy named Dominic Izzo, he did a podcast and he's now on iHeartRadio, Mojo 50 and stuff. And he was a Chicago cop that went through some corruption stuff out there, and his chief was corrupt, ended up firing him. He ended up getting reinstated but retired. But he gave me my first voice on his radio show, and it was amazing how many other officers reached out after that saying, we've dealt with the same thing, and this isn't right. And that kind of told me that, okay, there's something here that I need to key on to make sure nobody else suffers. And so in my processes of complaining and trying to do that, I call them the Chris's. Chris Thorpe and Chris Jacobson, both from Operation Enduring Warrior. One of them crossed one of my videos I'd put up online, and they reached out to me and saying, hey, we think you can help us. Because of my alcoholism, I'd skip this part of the story, but because of the alcohol, I'd end up getting a DUI in that process. And talk about embarrassing, a cop with a DUI trying to help other cops. And then this organization reaches out and said, hey, we think you can help. And man, I felt about this big. And I tried to detract them from me. I was, no, you don't want me. I'm not good enough, that kind of thing. And they were like, oh, well, it's not about you. It's about what we think you can do to help. So they tricked me, man. They did this
scam,
right? They did this Jedi mind trick thing on me, where they're like,
nothing to see here,
right? And they literally framed it in a way that probably the only way that would have gotten me involved, and that was to say you might have the opportunity to give back, and help make change. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. And then, so I agreed. I go through. They have a process, a background check, some interviews and stuff. It would go through all that, and I was upfront with them right away about my DUI because again, I was so embarrassed of it that I thought that would be disqualifying in and of itself, and they didn't even care. They were like, "Well, did you pay your fines? Were you a jerk about it? Okay, it happens."
Do you know how many people have a DUI and are productive members of society?
Right. So. And I was ashamed about it for a long time, but now I think it's such a strong part of the story because it shows how you can go from one extreme to the other, and then come back from that. Just because you're in the bottom of a bottle right now does not mean there is no future for you. There is a way out, and this organization has been so amazing. They don't tell you a way out. They show you, and they don't show you by saying, "Hey, do X, Y, Z." They show you by saying, stand right here. We'll do it together. Walk with me, and we'll figure this out.
So, and that's that's a good transition point. Mark, chime in here.
Dude, I'm captivated, man.
So, I'll give you a perspective. We're out at the Tactical Games National Championship in Florida, down at I forget what range.
Bradenton at JTAC Ranch.
JTAC Ranch, right? I'm sitting there, and I see the athletes. I see the gas mask. Guys in backpacks, and I'm like, well, that sucks, but good for you, it's probably a military group, and I don't want to say this offensively. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that are great nonprofits, and then there's some that I think things are just smoke and mirrors, and for profit, really, if you think about it. We've heard everybody's heard stories, right? So sometimes I'm very weary about nonprofits, but then it was just the way everybody carried themselves in the little tent, and then I walked over, and you hadn't gotten there yet, and I had talked with I think one of Juan's family members, and then Wilson, he was in a wheelchair. Tyler, yeah, and his wife, and was just captivated by his wife, not in a just weird way, babe, as you're sitting over there, but just the story, right, of their relationship and their marriage. And then talking
their kids. Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. Well, and the kid was just like my kid. He was talking about dinosaurs. I was like, okay, yeah, y'all are two peas in a pod. And just I kept getting captivated. I was like, okay, cool. Like, what is this about? So I walked over. I was like, so tell me what y'all are doing, right? And and then talking to Juan, and you could tell in the athletes they were very reserved, right? So the Warriors were very reserved, but there was in this fire around them that were lifting them up, so to speak. And then you got there, and you could just tell that the way everybody carried themselves as a unit was badass, right? Because sometimes we as people can't carry ourselves alone, and so we need other people around us to carry. So then I'm thinking that in my head, and I go on, and then I'm watching y'all, and I see the members leave, and then they come back with masks, and I'm like, well, you know, is that the same group of guys? And then I see the Warriors go out on the obstacle course and you know, the tactical games and shooting and stuff, and they're doing everything with them. And it was like, at that moment it clicked. I was like, wow, you know, there's something that was just really amazing about that. Very simple, right? Like you would think, like, why aren't more people doing this, right? To give somebody a chance just to be normal. But then I started thinking, like, what is everybody's normal, right? Like, what is normal? Tell me. If somebody can tell me what normal is, cool. But you're not going to be able to, right? And so to me, in that moment, I was like, that's uncommon, right? This whole thing right here is abnormal, which is uncommon, which is badass. And so tell us a little bit about the concept of it's the masked athletes, right?
Right.
So the masked athletes are teamed up with the Warrior, and they compete in all these. I mean, y'all do all these different races.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that concept of how that works, how an honoree, because you started off as an honoree, so you were the athlete, right?
Yeah, I was the one. I would have been in Tyler's position. I would have been the one that they're bringing through to benefit from the program.
So you weren't necessarily at that time masked.
No, I was
in
not
uniform.
masked,
You
nope.
were the person that they were going to be masked up working with.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So talk to us about why the mask and what does this represent?
So it's, I mean, obviously it's a very visible part of the organization, but you know, really what it is, it's sort of it symbolizes the strife and the challenge that people are still facing every day. So you go out and you wear a uniform. We don't have any name tapes on. We go by call signs. We have a gas mask on. The visor's blacked out, so you can't see who we are. And in that, we're anonymous. So we're sort of that behind-the-scenes force that's going to help our honoree make sure that they're successful.
And I will say on that note, something that I just thought of. I was blown away about what I was seeing happen, but thinking about it now, I was watching the athlete. So it's crazy you say that, in the fact that, like, y'all are supposed to be anonymous, because that's not what I was watching. I was watching the athlete, like, shine, right? And y'all were kind of just there helping them do that,
Yep.
which is accomplished so well, I think. So more power to you. But anyways, go ahead.
But it's part of, I don't know if you've ever run in a gas mask or spend much time in it. It sucks.
It's horrible.
But you know, it sort of symbolizes that strife and that challenge that everybody else or people are still going through. I mean, it's like 25% harder to breathe with that thing going on. But we're gonna take our honoree out, and if they want to run, we're running, and you better keep up. You know, our goal is to make sure, you know, to stand behind them and make sure they're successful. And we'll see people out on a race course or doing a Spartan race or something like that are, you know, oh, thanks for your service. You know, no, not us. This guy is the one who's really, you know, they're the ones that are really struggling. They're the ones that are overcoming. And once you explain that to people, you just see the light come on in their eyes, and you know, understanding what our honorees are going through and the challenges they're facing and that they're able to overcome. And you know, it brings people in, and they want to help us, and they want to find out more, and it's really pretty cool. You know, we always kid and about wearing the blacked out gas mask, and thank God it is blacked out, because I don't know how many times I've stood in an event and watched somebody do something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Watch somebody do something that they never thought they would ever be able to do again, and just tears streaming down my face.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm bawling like a baby behind this thing, but just because I'm so happy that this person has been able to overcome and accomplish and do something that changes their life.
And so when a person, I hope Tyler doesn't find.
On his note, I got a quick little story, if I may interject.
Yeah.
My very first event was in Ketowah, Kentucky. Eric was one of the masked guys for that, and then a couple of the other guys that are staples in the organization. You know, he was talking about how much it sucks running. I didn't quite realize how much it sucked for these guys running that first time. And, I mean, I'd worked in a gas mask with my TAC team all the time, but we didn't go running. I mean, most of the time you're standing outside of a building or in the building with gas around you. You're not doing a bunch of physical activity. You're not running and gunning and whatnot, I mean, for the most part. I didn't take that into consideration, so I tried to do like a slow trot for the guys, but even then, when you're 5 miles in, it's 100 and some odd degrees. 3 of them ended up vomiting in their masks, and they didn't take their mask off. One minute they clean it out and they put the mask on and they finish the mission. Like nothing gets in these guys' way, nothing at all. And I didn't realize it till after the fact that was occurring, and it was just a testament to how much some of these masked athletes, like, they'll give you a left arm. Well, not all of them have a left arm, but they'll give you the shirt off their back, man. They are literally there to do whatever they can for that honoree.
And that's what I wanted to ask, you know. And I don't want to use. I hope Tyler doesn't mind me talking about him, but you know, he's obviously in a wheelchair, which didn't stop him from doing a damn thing. But I assume if an athlete comes to y'all, if an honoree comes to y'all and he's like, I want to do this race, right? And y'all find ways to make sure that happens for them to complete all avenues of that race, right? So do y'all investigate like what goes on in the race beforehand or no? So y'all know, hey, as the mass athletes, we can make sure that they can get this done. And if they can't get done with an obstacle, what can we do to help them get that obstacle done?
So it's actually, I mean, we all have quite a bit of training to understand, one, how to deal with the various injuries that people have suffered, and you know, we take it very seriously. We realize that their loved ones are entrusting this person's life to us to make sure that they not only that they get through successfully, but most importantly that they get through safely. So we have, you know, we're always very safety conscious. We go out and we do recons on the races, so we understand what the obstacles are going to be like or what the challenges are going to be like, and then. You know, we go out as a team, and it's all problem solving. Come up to an obstacle, and you understand what the limitations are, and you figure out what that honoree is comfortable and what they can do, and sometimes we'll push them. You know, hey, you know, you may want to think about doing it this way, and give them some ideas, and then we're there to support them to make sure that they get across that obstacle or overcome that challenge. You know, however best they can, and if it gets to a point where they can't do it, we're not getting paid to run an obstacle course race. Let's skip it and go do the next one. You know, next race around, we'll try and figure out a different way to do it. But you know, it's truly amazing that you know, you watch folks and their ability to overcome the challenges. Yeah. And sometimes they just need a hand on your back just to make sure that you know somebody's here and we're not going to let you fall, or you know, we've got you in a rope set up. So even if you do fall, we'll catch you.
You brought up Tyler a couple times, and his wife's name's Crystal. Yeah, Crystal.
Great. I said the wrong name.
Yeah, I had to make sure. But even after that event, you know, that at the tactical games, that was the first time I actually met Tyler and his wife, and I can't tell you how many times that she has reached out personally and thanked, you know, our organization, and even me personally. I was there as a volunteer at that point. You know, I wasn't a masked athlete, and I wasn't an honoree at that point. I was just there to help, and it was so much. It had such an impact on her that I think she reached out to every single one of the members that were there personally, thanking them and explaining how much it meant to Tyler. He'd never thought he was going to be able to shoot competitively again. And you know, shooting was such an important part of his life, and the after effects. There's so much more than just what happens out on that course. You know, the course is a couple hours of one day that we're out there, maybe even 2 days, in you know, for the tactical games or something out there. But the effects that we have in the family that we build is so much more than what is occurring on that course.
Yeah, it's something, man. So Mark was you were, you know, doing something else, and wasn't able to make it to Florida, It was one of the first things I came back. I was like, man, y'all got to hear about this organization. Like, it's just crazy, you know. And both of us, my wife and I, got to watch it when we were there, and you're right. There's so much that you see. It's not just about the race, right? You build confidence. You overcome an obstacle, and that obstacle now is something else in your life. That I assume that they go, okay, I was able to do that wall, right? Well, this is nothing, you know. Sometimes I don't like when I hear stuff about, like, you know, forcing a person to adapt and overcome and stuff like that. Like, to them, that's their life now, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to I hate making people feel like it's something different. It's not. Like, I mean, that's their life. Mm-hmm. Why is that different? That's their life now. I mean, that's their norm.
Exactly.
That's why I brought up, like, what is normal? Like, you can't tell me what's normal, because the second we establish a normal, then we're causing people to be outcast.
Yep.
And these other things, you know. Yeah, I just was completely blown away by the organization and everything y'all are doing. And it's not just about races. So y'all do archery too now.
We have 5 programs. We have the archery program, the Warriors Voice program, a race program, an adventure program, and archery.
Yeah, you said archery.
Did I? Which one am I missing?
Double archery.
Yeah.
Double archery.
Twice the archery. No, I think that's it. You know, it's different people have different ideas on how they want to do things and what appeals to them. And obviously not everybody wants to go out and run a Spartan race or throw a ruck on your back and go 25 miles. So, you know, it's about giving people tools to cope with things and figure out, you know, what's my outlet, what's my passion, you know, how do I move forward. But, you know, even with all the activity, the backside of that, and what I tell everybody else is, this isn't just an organization, it's a family. And sorry, you're gonna so usually where I get choked up, but you know, we all have our warts, we all have our challenges, we all have our problems, but we're all here to lean on one another. You know, I think Jeremy said it best. You know, people ask you, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And we all know that's bullshit. We know that people aren't doing well. You know, and after you build relationships and understand what people are about, you know when they're not doing okay. And you know, we had a discussion when we were at Warex in June or July last year, and so I paint the picture a little bit. I said, all right, I used to be a rescue diver. One of the most terrifying things in the world is swimming towards a drowning person. Now, is that person going to drag me under? You know, am I going to drown? What's going to go on? I don't know. But to tell that drowning person, you know, hey, save yourself, you know, because everybody says, hey, just, you know, if you're having problems, just call me. You know, my phone's always on. I'm always here. You know, you're telling a drowning person that they have to take a step to save their life. And a lot of times people aren't capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think I may look at you while I'm drowning and go, what just happened? No, I need help, you know? And that's the thing. Like, I mean, look, I think everybody here is just type A personality, right? I mean, fighter pilot, cop, you know, we don't ask for help, right?
No.
We don't. And so many times, like, it's upon other people to go, okay, what's going on? And a lot of that is surrounding yourself with individuals and organizations like that, you know, that just help you push past that I don't need help.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that y'all are helping, right? And I'm going to analyze this in a way that, like, y'all are clearly helping people. That's what the goal of this is, right? Is to clearly help
Absolutely.
people. But you're not going out there and making it like a charity or a like you're sick, or it's just, hey, come, just be here.
Yep.
Be in the moment, be present.
Yeah, just be here, give it a shot. Yeah, we'll support you. We'll make it happen.
One of the biggest things I felt with the police department and even the people surrounding the police department is I had a very strong feeling of abandonment.
And that's something I wanted to ask you. On the abandonment, when how can they fire you?
State law says if you can't return to work within 1 year for whatever reason, they can terminate your employment.
But even if it's an injury,
Doesn't matter.
It's crazy.
So according to the lawyer, there were some legal issues I could have attempted to make, but the cost versus what I could have gained were negligible, and I don't know. We just didn't go that route. You know, they couldn't get me my job back. They said it was lawful for the firing, but there were some things with the workman's comp I could have done, I guess. And it also came down to, at that point, I just wanted to be done with it. I just wanted it all to go away. Like,
did you see the right? Because here's something that was interesting. You said when you talk about abandonment, you go back. Your chief is showing you this scene, right? Something that stuck out to me, and I don't know if you took it this way, but like he's showing you these bullets that go into the house, right? If I'm the first person I'm telling my story to, or I'm fixing to tell my story to my chief during the investigation, right? And the first thing he's telling me is almost something, because we're not supposed to shoot in other people's houses, right? But people don't understand that gunfire and a gunfight is a gunfight, right? It's almost like he was telling you may have done something wrong. So did you see at that moment, hey, they may be abandoning me this early on?
I felt it the moment they took my gun and they didn't give me any. I left the hospital. I was shot at about 10:50 at night, 10 minutes before shift change. And you know, I was to the emergency room by 11:15. I mean, it was a 20-minute drive, and they screwed me out of my helicopter ride. They had a helicopter coming, but it was a non-life-threatening injury, so they called off my helicopter ride, which I joke around about all the time. But
you don't want to fly in a helicopter anyway; they're scary.
It shouldn't work, is what it is.
Right. It's not supposed to fly.
Yeah, it's not supposed to fly.
But at any rate, so I got to the hospital, and when I arrived there, all of the officers who weren't doing anything in that area, there's probably 30 officers lining up the emergency room entrance, and that was huge. Like that was probably the only outshowing of support I got from the local police community. So then I'm in the hospital. They're taking all these photographs. They pumped me full of morphine, and I'm sitting there. And they take my clothes. They're doing gunshot residue, and I'm like, I could tell you I shot the gun. Why are you like?
yeah. We're not arguing that point,
right? Like, come on, guys. Let's just get through this. And they get me all taken care of, and because of the way the wound was, it was really deep. It was probably about that deep, so they couldn't just like suture it up. We had to pack it, and it was a whole ordeal. But they didn't nobody showed up with clothes or anything. I had to leave the hospital in a hospital gown because they had seized all of my clothes, and that's how I got to go home that night.
I mean, did they think you did something criminal here? Like, I'm just really confused.
I don't know. I've asked myself repeatedly. I mean,
is this chief still a chief?
Yeah, yep, he's still the chief there. I mean, they won't even give me my retirement credentials. They won't give me retirement credentials because of the PTSD. They're afraid that I may choose to carry. You know, if I have retirement credentials under the federal law, I'd be able to carry, and they're afraid of the liability of me carrying a firearm now.
Do you agree with that?
No, not at all.
Do you feel that
I have guns at home? I have my own weapons. They just won't give me the credentials.
I mean, we talked about that with Dr. Tanya Glenn, you know, on that episode with Dr. Glenn, is just that, you know, I thought that, I know it happens. We're taking guns from cops for situations, and there's times that I agree that, hey, that officer does not need that gun right now. I've known those officers, like, get the gun out of their hand. Do not let them have any creds. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, like, it's almost, I mean, I'm sitting here going, and I'm like, that's why I'm thinking, like, do they think you did anything criminal? I mean, you weren't brought up on any charges or anything.
No, but anytime that happens.
No, I know that, yeah. But it's like even to now, right? No. Like way past the situation, it's like, okay, I mean, let's make that right and show that, hey, we've got your back, because, I mean, yeah, I just it's just weird.
Well, the investigation took over a year and a half before I finally got a letter from the state's attorney's office clearing me. And I got that letter on my phone. I carry it with me, especially with everything that's been going on recently. I've had a lot of heartburn and a lot of fear that some politician is going to look over some past police shootings and just try to hold all of our feet to the fire, even though we did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so there's still that fear right now that at any moment I'm going to get a phone call, hey, you have to show back up in Illinois because you're now under investigation for your shooting in 2016. And I'm terrified of that. I mean, and you know.
And I hate to say it, man, I would be too. I mean, you clearly got guys that are backing you. We back, you know. That's just the world we're living in right now.
Yep, exactly.
So let me ask you this: as a president of the organization, we kind of got a history of the organization and what y'all do, and we'll summarize in a little bit. But so, talking about the law enforcement thing and adding law enforcement, adding firefighters. I know we give firefighters shit. I mean, you know, there's a lot of. I feel for the guys like the 9/11 guys in New York that are dying without benefits. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, these dudes that ran into a building. I mean, it's just a totally different ball game in what we're dealing with. That just blows my mind.
How quickly people forget.
Oh, absolutely.
Just how quickly it all happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, hey guys, I'm here on the show.
Yeah, this is so Mark is a co-host on the show.
Hey, I just stepped on in. So man, I tell people all the time, it's like, sometimes I forget we're on a podcast because I just get so captivated. I'm like, fuck, man, this is a good podcast. I was like, oh wait, hey, what's up? But yeah, just how I don't know what it is, man. And there's a couple things we're probably gonna circle back a little bit, but just like how quickly people forget all the time, but then like the moment they need help,
organizations
it's
forget.
Like, you just like forget. It's the craziest thing. And then we were talking about asking for help, and I think the first thing that came into my mind is that we don't ask for help because we are the help. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's why it's so hard for us to ask for help, because it's the same thing that we talk about all the time. It's like, well, who would you want to do it? I was like, who do you trust? I was like, well, I don't trust anybody else. Like, I trust me because I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
So it's like when we ask for help, it's like I don't ask for help because I am the help, and if I can't figure this out, you know, everybody else is gonna fail, or whatever the mission is gonna fail. Like I have to be the solution, and that's what we usually do is like I need to figure out a solution. You know, good, bad, or indifferent, it's still a solution.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to burden anybody else with your problem.
yeah.
You know, you take all that stuff you've seen, you pack it in a box. You hope you get the tape tight enough so that box doesn't come open again, and you put that someplace in your mind where you never want to go.
Yeah. And
but that shit doesn't stay closed.
No, it doesn't. And I don't care who you are or the like. There's always something that you're gonna. Everybody's got. I think every cop's got an anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like going to the grocery store for me, I'm not trying to be, you know, like Billy Bass, but like I hate going to the grocery store because there's so many people. Like I just don't. Quite frankly, I just not a big people person.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a people person. My wife will tell you I'd talk to anybody, but there's situations she knows, like, okay, we're done, we're leaving.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think there's anything. To me, I don't look at that as a negative thing, but I can see if I have that now, imagine a trauma or something else that just would compound, and then I wouldn't ask for help because maybe I think that's the normal or I am the help type thing. You know.
So asking for help, and I know on our end of the house, like we do a really good job of it. Ample amount of people and organizations.
That's
like
Texas law enforcement though, because I mean, you tell me in Illinois, and I'm like, well, I'm really not surprised.
Yeah.
Like by the failures of managers and leaders of leaving a person out to dry and seeing warriors like that.
I think that's like some of the stuff that's really shocking to me. It's just like, man, like no one, little thing, like it's little things, like no one thought to brought you clothes or to show up, or someone just even.
Or you're gonna bring up
like
he's shooting into the house. That's the first thing you say.
Yeah,
you don't go, bro. Are you okay? You know, like we're gonna walk you through the scene. I mean, I'm like blown away.
Well, that's semi-common too. It's like, here are your mistakes that you made. And it's like
when they did that, they weren't doing it from the chief wasn't saying I was making mistakes. It was more like he was more treating me like I was a badass, and look how badass you were. You did this awesome. You lived through this. It was more like that. But even that I wasn't really ready for. I didn't feel like I was a badass. I feel like I just got lucky. I mean, based on the trajectory of the round, I never turned my back to this man ever, but the round went in my elbow. So the only thing I can figure is I put my arm up like that and it went in. So how lucky was I? 6 inches to the left, that's a headshot, and
Or sitting in that car. What if you'd gone back to that car in that situation?
Right. So I didn't really feel like a badass. And here he's kind of saying, "Oh, you did awesome. You did good." And I'm like, eh. Like, can we just get through this before we try to compartmentalize it in that way?
So I want to go back to something. So we're talking about law enforcement involved in an organization, and we talked about, he was talking about his letter, and I'm like, yeah, especially like up north, we're not talking about Texas cops, like we're talking about a cop up in Illinois. Like I'd be worried until the day I died what a stupid politician would do up there, but as a president of an organization, and now we're opening it up to law enforcement, and of course firefighters aren't necessarily going to get blamed for anything. I'm not making light of that. I mean, like criminally for the most part, use of force situation, right? Did y'all have to have any conversations as Operation Enduring Warrior of taking a stage in law enforcement in today's world? And I kind of know the answer to this question, but I've got to believe that there's some organizations that go, hey, we may stay with just the military right now because law enforcement may bring some bad light to a 501c3 that's already hurting because of COVID, right?
Right. No, I mean, for us, we're patriots. We're 100% patriots, and military's fighting the fight outside of the country. Law enforcement's fighting the fight inside the country. We've got the same mission. We've got the same goals. It's the right thing to do. Take care of the people that are taking care of us. And I mean, without a doubt, not a question in my mind, it was the right decision. So, we don't take a stand on political things. That's not our mission. You guys do you. We're going to take care of we're going to stay focused on our mission statement, on our honorees, and making sure that we're taking care of what they need. And the rest of the world, go do your thing.
That's awesome. Did you want to show something? I saw you had your phone.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Institute of Law Enforcement Administration?
Yes,
down here in Texas?
I am.
So for my master's degree, it was in legal studies. I wrote a thesis about PTSD in law enforcement. And something you'd said earlier, and it's escaping me right now, made me think about it, but they have a publication called Ethics Roll Call. Mm-hmm. I wrote a paper for them, and it was published by their organization about PTSD in law enforcement. And some of the things you'd talked about and some of the different, you were talking about the difference between, a department treating you well. I think it was you who'd mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And the difference between a department that treats you not so well. And in that, I did a little bit of a case study, and I do recognize the anecdotal nature of it because I was only able to use 3 examples, myself being one of them. But I also used an example of a federal officer who was a pilot, was shot in the back 7 times. And then I also used another example of an officer, I believe he was in Texas here. What was his name? I wrote about him in my book as well, but I didn't. I think I left his name out for reasons I didn't want to get him in trouble with his department. Actually, it was Colorado. It was Colorado. At any rate, the 2 officers who were treated negatively did not return to work. They developed bad PTSD. They had a lot of issues after the fact, me being one of them, the other officer in Colorado being the other. And then the federal officer who was given unlimited support. They took care of him in every way they could. They didn't give him any problems with the healing processes, etc. He is still in law enforcement and getting ready to retire right now. So, just the difference in there needs to be some change on a systemic level within police organizations. It's not if this is going to happen to your department. It's when, especially in this atmosphere.
Well, and I think this needs to be some systematic change that is anybody that's in service, mm-hmm. right? How many honorees come to y'all to, bitching and complaining about the veteran affairs or anything, people that are just left behind and need help. I mean, to me, if it's a warrior, at some level, we can't leave them behind, right? There's got to be some resources, and there needs to be a reapproach, and organizations like yourself of taking different approaches for different types of people. Look, I'm sure there's people and honorees or warriors that just it wouldn't be a good fit for Operation Enduring Warrior, right?
Right.
Just physically, whatever that may be, or that's just not their thing, right? But that doesn't mean there's not another organization or another approach that an agency or administration needs to put into place to create resolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're completely failing as a country in that area, especially for our troops. And I think it's just compounding within law enforcement, hence why we're seeing the increase in suicides in law enforcement. I couldn't give you a stat on firefighting, but I can't imagine like a lot of the, people in New York, firefighters in New York. And so, and what solutions are there? And right now, to me, it's like a lot of the solutions I would only look outside an agency, right? To organizations like yourself. I wouldn't look inside. I'm not speaking of my agency. I think we do a really good job in some agencies of providing services and resources. I mean, that's great.
It's phenomenal.
What I've noticed, the office, the agency that the other gentleman was with that didn't heal, I believe he was with a tribal agency, and the Indian tribal agencies, they don't have all of the rules placed upon them that some of the other agencies have, and they're generally smaller. And I've found that the people who have problems generally come from smaller agencies because those agencies don't have the resources. And when you start getting into some of the certifications that the larger agencies want, like CALIA and things of that nature, there's ingrained into those some resiliency things that need to be taken care of. And smaller departments, when you got 7 sworn, they could care less about a CALIA certification, which would allow, and so they don't have the policies in place to deal with it. And that goes back to what I was saying. All these small departments, 1, 2, 7, that's the majority of the departments throughout the community, throughout the country. It really is. Yeah. So to sit there and not think it's going to happen to you and prepare for it like it will, you're already behind the ball. Trying to go and fix it after the fact, you're gonna screw someone up.
I take it y'all as an organization are coming up with solutions to adapt for an ever-changing society, right?
Right.
And what other, I assume, Spartan races and these other things aren't just the ceiling for y'all. Y'all see other avenues of how can we, open up our organization to do more.
Right. Exactly. Oh, by the way, skydiving was one you forgot.
I thought the same thing. It was skydiving.
No.
So, like I said, not everybody wants to do a Spartan race, but
not everybody wants to jump out of a perfectly good plane.
Yeah, right here.
I'd be terrified if I did it.
I may do it, but I mean, not every.
Strapped on, get the guy behind me, but push me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the important thing is we kind of come back to that thing that after the injury, folks have lost their tribe, they've lost their team, they've lost their sense of identity, and for us, that's what we try to do is give them that sense of identity back. You're part of a family, you're part of a unit, you're part of something bigger than yourselves, because let's face it, we all got in this business because we want to serve, we want to give back to the community somehow, and to do that, we're part of an organization that has a mission and a purpose, and we're moving forward. And I mean, even for me, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was adrift. I had I'm working a job again. I will go back to that satisfaction thing, but my first job was just pushing paper from one box to another, and I'm like, God, this sucks. And it just it turned into, destructive behavior, drinking too much, just the way I was acting, and it almost cost me my marriage. But when I got back into something that gave me purpose again, things all turned around. And I think Jeremy will talk about it, and the other folks you talk about it. Once you've got a purpose and just something, because we're hardwired to serve, I got more to give. I want to continue to do more. And how do I do that? And this gives people an outlet and a way to do that. And I think that's where we see people, tricked into it or not. A lot of people don't want help. They want to be able to help someone else. And if we help you in the process, okay.
Well, the awesome thing is not only are y'all providing the purpose, something to me that sticks out more than just the purpose, y'all are empowering that person to accomplish it themselves with the support of other people, right?
Our job is not to go out there and do it for them. If we're doing it for them, we're failing. Our job is to sit here and say, this sounds a little weird, but we're not telling them to suck it up, but we are telling them that your limits are your limits that you've placed upon yourself, and you can push through those limits.
Yeah.
And then when you're standing there next to them, they're like, oh, I can't do that. I did it, for example. Since my shooting, I've not been able to climb a rope. I just didn't have the grip strength at all. And it was at Warx the first time I was. We get to the rope obstacle, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, "There's no way. I'm not even going to try." So the mat guys, they right away, they're like, "All right, well, let's bust out a harness. We'll put you in a harness, and I'm talking a full-fledged climbing harness. They'll throw the ropes up. They'll do the whole 9 yards, and they would assist me had I chose." Well, again, the Type A personality thing. I was like, "You're not putting me in. I'm doing this now."
Yeah.
And so I tried, and I didn't get it the first time, but I got back down. They're like, okay, here, try it this way. And they showed me how to properly kind of climb a rope using your feet and, different techniques and whatnot. And they're like, all right, you ready to try again? And the very next time I made it up the rope. And
awesome.
I get back down, and I'm damn near in tears because here's something I never thought I was going to be able to do again. And, fast forward to 2 weekends ago, this guy made me do it again. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
And it's something interesting you said about, that the limits that people have set on themselves. See, I would disagree with you, bro.
Okay.
And here's what it is. I think society is putting a lot of these limits on those people to give them the perception that that's their limit.
Well, but they buy into it is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. No, I know. I'm for the sake of like devil's advocate is
okay,
what I'm saying.
What you're saying.
Is like that's what I'm saying. Like organizations like yourself are changing society's mindset of what is normal, right? Because there isn't normal.
Right.
So therefore we have to provide and see that just somebody's story, somebody's purpose, somebody's walk they're living is not the same as everybody else's. So
exactly.
how can you say that's your limit? Because you don't know your limit,
Yeah. I think
it's interesting.
Society's narrative right now says you need to be comfortable. Sit back on your couch, you've got your phone, all that. Just don't work too hard, just be comfortable. That's BS.
Yeah, no growth comes in comfort.
No, absolutely. We're going to get you out. We're going to challenge you. We're going to push you. We push ourselves. We're always trying to get better and, be more fit. And, when you get to be my age, that gets really painful. But, it's pushed beyond that comfort zone, be a little bit better. You don't have to be perfect, but be better than you were yesterday. And just take one more step. That's all I'm asking, just one more step. And then turn around and look back and go, oh, shit, that was a lot of steps. That was a lot of miles.
Yeah.
Look where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's funny. He says the one more step thing. He was in my ear for a good 3 hours a few weeks ago telling me literally just one more step. And I had a 100-pound pack on my back, and he's telling me one more step for like 2 miles.
I would have taken a step just to shut you up. I would have been like, bro, okay, I'm taking the step. I'm taking it.
But it was funny because that's exactly what happened. I took a step, and then I'm just dying. I want to rest. And he's like, take another step. So you take that one, and then you find that all of these steps are in you.
Yeah.
You have all of them.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. And your body's going to do anything your mind tells it to.
Yeah, your biggest limitation is the 6 inches between your ears.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how can people find out about your organization? How can people get involved as an honoree? Do y'all seek them out? How can people get involved? I'm sure there's different ways and different avenues, but what's the first step? Somebody's watching this right now and listening. They go, I don't know if I'm an honoree. I don't know if I'm meant to be somebody wearing a mask, but I just know I need to get involved.
Well, the first place to look is go to enduringwarrior.org, and that's our website. That has all the information. If you think you might qualify as an honoree, if you want to be part of the masked athlete team, all that information is there. If you want to be a volunteer, we call them Operation Enduring Warrior Community Ambassadors, or OCAs. The information is there on how to sign up. We'll get you plugged in. Obviously, as an all-volunteer organization, we're totally reliant on folks volunteering their time and their energy and their efforts and things like that to make our mission. And, we'd love to have you. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can find us all over the web. You can see the crazy stuff that we do to make sure that folks get through courses and things like that. But, come out and take a look at us. Come run a race with us or do an event. I think that's probably the best way to find out if you're a fit for us and if we're a fit for you. And, we're not going to turn people away. Welcome to the family. come on in. We'll find a place for you. We'll take your talents. We'll take your skills, and in return, we're going to give you some amazing self-satisfaction.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Jeremy, you provided us your book.
Yes.
I assume this is kind of like what your story that you've been talking to us about.
Yes, sir.
Where can people get it?
It's available on every major book publisher, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.
Did you ever have that long hair?
No, that's not it. That's not me.
Okay.
That's not me. No, it's a stock photo. I think it's a stock
Yeah,
photo.
I was gonna say those are nice highlights, bro.
Thank you.
But
But yeah, after I actually wrote that last year during COVID, I didn't have anything else to do, and believe it or not, I found I healed more in the process of writing that book, and with the help of OEW. I mean, the self-reflection it took to sit there and line by line go through all of it again and again, because when you're writing a book, it's not like you write it down and you're done. I mean, every line in there I've probably read and written 200 times. And in terms of an exposure therapy type situation, what better exposure than to sit there and live in it, work through it logically, step by step. So the writing, in the little back excerpt, it's as much altruistic as it is selfish. I had as much healing from that book as I hope others can find use for it.
yeah, so it's called My Brother's Keeper by Jeremy Scharlow. Relearning to Live with PTSD. So y'all check it out. Make sure you go buy it and read it. I think every officer, even if there's going to be an officer that listens and goes, and there may be an officer that doesn't struggle with any of it, right? We talked about that with Dr. Glenn. There's officers that it just and that's okay. But I still think officers need to educate themselves, and not just officers, military members. The community that gets involved with an organization like this needs to educate themselves on what these struggles make, because I don't think people quite get the grasp of it, right? So there's so many people that say, well, you were on medication. Well, you're weak. Well, buddy, it doesn't work like that, right? There's guys that I know that are on medication that would just completely blow a person's world apart, both physically and even mindset-wise. And so I think people just need to have a better understanding. And I think it's one thing we're failing in this country is better understandings of mental health. And I'm not trying to be sappy, right? Like I just think it's just people just need to learn and just put themselves out there to be more educated on that. So, all right. So y'all shot the Gatling gun.
Yeah, that was freaking awesome.
Yeah. So that was really cool. So I didn't realize it was 45-70. So you started firing it first, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, wow, man. What was your impression? And you've literally flown an airplane, a fighter pilot, what do you think?
That was badass. I mean, can you imagine being on a battlefield and somebody rolls that thing out? And
or can you imagine being on, the bad side of that?
Yeah.
And that's the first time you hear that, and all you hear is boom, 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 boom. It was awesome.
Oh, that was pretty bad.
What do you think?
I was floored. I've seen those types of weapons before. I never thought I was going to shoot one.
Yeah,
no, me either.
I was trying to think. I was like, because I was trying to think, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and we'll talk a little bit later about the other podcast we're going to do with the other Warriors, because I kind of want to do something each time, it doesn't have to be shooting guns, like do something that they just haven't done before. And I was like, I saw that sitting out that last episode, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's what we're going to do.
Cool.
It was really cool. It really was.
So, so anybody who wants to check it out, they go to Texas Gun Experience and check that out. Mark, you got anything before I ask our president here the final question?
No, man. That was fucking great stories today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It flew by. Like I was.
Yeah, it did.
I have heard. Usually, I have a timer here going to kind of time check me and everything. And she sent the time. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, oh my gosh!" Like,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So you already asked the question when we were in Florida. I believe you did. And if you didn't, we'll ask you again. But I'm pretty sure we did. But in a world of commonality, in a world of just commonness and people that just mediocrity is the norm, and be comfortable, what, in your opinion, not the organization's opinion, in your opinion personally, what do you think be uncommon means?
I think be uncommon is do something uncomfortable. Push yourself to do something that you didn't do before, you didn't think you can do. Try something new. Try a different experience. It's like you said, everybody now says, we got to be comfortable. We can't, you don't want to live a stressed life. That's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard. Get out there and try new things, push your boundaries, make new friends, reach out to somebody. Somebody's hurting, somebody's in trouble. Yeah, you're going to be vulnerable to reach out to them, and don't be a jerk about it, but don't necessarily take the first answer they give you. It's putting yourself out there for somebody else, not for your own personal gain, I think is really uncommon. And I think that's what really sets people apart in this organization who are willing to do that, who will, at the drop of a hat, be by your side because you need help.
It's awesome. Did we ask you when we were in Florida?
I mean, if I say yes, do I get...
What do you think?
I think it's very uncommon to go against the status quo. We're all, and I think it ties into a lot of what Troy is saying. We're so, I don't know. We all have these routines that we're so set in, and usually it's you get up, you get dressed, you go to work, you come home, you watch. I mean, and there's nothing outside of your little bubble, and so it's very uncommon for one to step outside of their bubble and disrupt the status quo. And I feel like that is where people will find their personal growth. They'll find their purpose. And when you find your purpose, the world's your oyster. If you know your purpose, there's nothing that is going to stop you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What was your call sign when you were a fighter pilot?
Okay, so call signs are usually...
What was that?
I was trying to hold my sneeze, man.
What is up? This is the second episode you sneeze. In a year and a half, you haven't sneezed at all, and they're these weird sneezes.
When?
Anyways, go ahead.
Sorry for me for trying to be polite.
We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So call signs are earned, not given, or earned, not, you don't get to make your own. And it's usually centered around doing something stupid. We had in our squadron a doofa, doesn't understand, flies anyway.
That's good.
Yeah, we had a shoe, stupid as human on earth. So I joined the Masons when I was in flight school, so I had a Masonic symbol on the back of my helmet. And I was pretty lucky. When I got to my first squadron, somebody said Shriner, and then somebody said, "Who's that guy from the Flintstones, the Grand Poobah?" And the skipper says, "Pooh, it is." I'm like, "Oh, that's terrible. I hate it." Terrible.
So it's poo?
It is poo. Yeah. So it suits my sleepy disposition and pot belly.
That's awesome. Well, Mark, anything?
Oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah,
thanks,
it's
guys.
really good. We're really looking forward to doing more with y'all's organization, and I think it's like when we talked on that Teams call. It's just like there's just something about this organization that I want to highlight, and I think giving Warriors a place to start telling their story, I think is huge in the healing process, and really just come and just shoot the shit and have fun. Like I don't want them to think, when they listen, if there are any Warriors that are going to join us that are listening to this, I don't want y'all to think you got to really necessarily come here and tell your story. Just come and sit down, talk with us, shoot the shit with us, hang out, know that there's other people in this world that just want to hang out, and start this healing process for y'all. So don't think, and for our listeners, when we talk about the Warrior's Voice, when we talk about, I think that's what we're going to, continue the name on that is, it's not just going to be just straight military law enforcement stories. A lot of times it's just going to be people sitting around hanging out talking and like showing that sometimes being vulnerable is just being there and being present, at least that's kind of what I've envisioned. And talking like that is just, allowing an outlet to be there. And if stuff happens organically, which it 100% of the time does, it happens. So make sure you go check out Operation Enduring Warrior, guys. Make sure you go check out the sponsors of the show. Soldier Socks I can't wait to get the sock. We'll pick it up. We'll start wearing them anytime there. We have any of y'all's Warriors on, and I can't wait to see what y'all design. Y'all got some y'all got some unique people involved in the organization, so I can see like something just totally off the wall happening.
Oh yeah, and I'm not worried about wearing them to a Spartan race. I'm wearing them to work.
Yeah. Should we get Lopez and them guys? Lopez and Earl?
Oh man, that'd be crazy.
So make sure you check out Soldier Socks. Make sure you, go check out their website. Make sure you check out our RX Plus plates, guys. If you're involved in doing any of these races, a lot of them involve having to use body armor in their weights. I highly encourage you to use them. Plus, their business is just awesome. They support military law enforcement wholeheartedly down there. Make sure you check out our shirts. Bada bing, bada boom. They're dropping. I mean, this will drop after that, but they'll be online. And guys, the reason we're doing that is we're not trying to get rich off the podcast. We're trying to do more things like this and start traveling to them so they don't have to fly into town to come shoot a Gatling gun. Maybe one day I take the Gatling gun to them. So the shirts won't be available long. Very limited numbers. I'm not going to give you the number, but it's very, very limited. So if they haven't sold out by the time this airs, make sure you go to the website, go check them out. We got some other ones in the works and some other stuff we got coming up this summer. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'm hungry, and I know y'all are probably hungry too, so we're going to go grab a bite to eat with them. Guys, remember what I always say, stay safe, stay switched on, and stay uncommon.
I'll throw the first punch, 'cause I've kept my mouth shut for far too long.